Okay, I'll start today's class by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung, Sawadee Khap. Today is our group learning program, and we're in chapter 2 of our program. What we do is we use this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment, to gradually guide students through developing a foundation in the teachings of the Buddha that will help guide you to enlightenment. Enlightenment is where the mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. The mind is just always joyful. You're always in a good mood. You have focus, concentration, clarity of mind, deep memory. And you'll see that your personal and professional relationships will really blossom because you won't have this roughness and harshness in your life anymore. So as part of that journey, an individual needs to seek guidance in learning the path and training their mind. So I use this program, it's a 7-month program, to guide students through developing their life practice to attain enlightenment. And of course, at the end of 7 months, somebody isn't going to be enlightened, but you'll have a really good foundation in which to then move into other teachings and expand your development and training on the path to enlightenment. And I have other programs and courses and retreats for expanding your understanding of the teachings beyond the group learning program. So we meet on Sundays and Wednesdays, and then we also live stream as well to be able to help students learn. We do this in the morning and then in the evenings as well. I also live stream in the evenings. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys. Those of you guys that are tuning in online, welcome to all of you as well. We start our class with meditation in order to train the mind. So if you guys would like to join for meditation, you're welcome to join even online. You're welcome to do some meditation with us. And then afterwards, today I'll be teaching chapter 2, which is titled, Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings? This is going to be a bit of a discussion rather than what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks, which we restarted the group learning program 6 weeks ago. What I normally do is I will share teachings and then have you guys ask any questions that you like about the teachings. But what I do in chapter 2, now that we've been studying for a period of time, is I essentially lead a discussion where we can discuss, why have you chosen to learn the teachings of the Buddha? And then those of you guys that are online or those of you guys here at the temple, we can have this discussion, and then everybody can potentially share, why is it that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha? Because if you read the book, chapter 2, you saw what I wrote. You saw my understanding of why I feel it's important and wise to study the teachings of the Buddha. But what's important for you is, why have you chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha? So this is a great time to get to know each other and start to spend time developing relationships and things like this. But let's start with our meditation. The Buddha used breathing mindfulness meditation in order to train the mind. This is the primary form of training that he used, but there's other training as well, not just meditation. But in terms of meditation, this is the primary form of training that he used, what's called breathing mindfulness meditation. What I'm going to do is just have you guys experience the meditation, and I'll guide you in the meditation. And then any questions that you have afterwards, we can open up to any questions after you have already experienced the meditation. So there's 4 positions to do meditation in. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And if you're seated on the floor, you might just be sitting with your legs crossed and some cushions under your rear. People like to tend to get the rear up in the air because this lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and helps the body be more comfortable. And if you're in a chair, you might just be sitting with your feet flat on the floor or crossed at the ankles. It's really up to you. There's not just one fixed way of positioning the body. The body needs to be comfortable. Not luxurious and not painful, but comfortable. And for each person, that's going to be a little bit different. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and then he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use this, but not everybody's going to find that comfortable necessarily. So there's other options as well. You could put your palms on your thighs or on your knees. You could put your palms up. If you were in a chair with armrests, you might even just put your arms on the armrest of a chair. It's really up to you. Again, the lower body and hands and arms should be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but in the middle where the body is comfortable. Then what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation. And this is going to help us to develop mindfulness or awareness of mind. I have the chants on a laminated sheet over there on the table, and I teach these at different times in different courses. You're welcome to see the chants because they're in the Pali language, and sometimes students like to follow along and chant along. So you're welcome to have those if you like and follow along. And then after the chanting, we'll go into meditation and I'll provide some guidance to help you understand more about meditation. And by the way, the upper body, this should be erect. By keeping the upper body erect, this keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be complacent and not really active and attentive during your meditation. But if you are real rigid, the mind would have a tendency to be uptight and overactive. So you'd like the upper body to be erect, which will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation so you can actually do the work. Okay, so if you'd like to get any more meditation cushions or if you need the laminated sheet, you're welcome to get whatever you need. As I mentioned, we'll ease into meditation with some chanting. I'll do some guidance, just some brief guidance to help you guys get started. Then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be quiet, and then we'll come out of meditation with some chanting as well. And during that period of time where I'm not providing any guidance, we're all just doing the work to actually meditate. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Wat Tung Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavito Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusana Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance, just using my voice as a reminder. Whenever you get to your next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural breath, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the sound of the breath or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Just wherever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวาพุทธังมหาคะวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระ หังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมพุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรภูริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So as I was mentioning, this is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in terms of meditation in order to move the mind to enlightenment. What you're doing is you're cultivating mindfulness or awareness of mind, concentration or focus, and you're also developing the ability to easily let go. Because in the unenlightened mind, what the mind's doing is it's holding on, it's clinging, it's craving, it's longing, it's yearning. This is what's causing the anger and the sadness, the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the fear, the shyness, the resentment, the jealousy. All these discontent feelings in others are all being caused by the mind itself. In the unenlightened state, we typically blame other people for what we experience in terms of our feelings. But any kind of anger, frustration, irritation, all those discontent feelings, those are all being caused by one's own mind. And that's why you can eliminate these from the mind through training the mind, moving it to enlightenment. And this meditation is developing the qualities to help you to be able to do that. So there's the entire Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching. This is what leads you to enlightenment. But as part of that path, you need to develop mindfulness or awareness of mind so that in daily life, you'll be aware of what's going on in the mind. And then you'll need that concentration or the focus, the ability to practice singleness of mind. And then you'll be able to let things go. You're going to need that as part of your journey to enlightenment, because as you notice that the mind's starting to become angry or frustrated or irritated, you can then cut that off and let it go in daily life if you've been training your mind this way in meditation. So in meditation, we're training in one way. We're cutting off anything and everything that arises. But the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. If you had thoughts during meditation, this is completely normal. Even for an enlightened being, they're going to have occasional thoughts. You can still the mind, you can quiet the mind, but as long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts. The difference is that in the unenlightened state, there's usually a bombardment of thoughts, or you might have a thought and you might follow it for a period of time and kind of indulge in that thought. And then you'll realize, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring the mind back to the breath. So in the enlightened mind, by the time you train to get to enlightenment, you'll know that you've had a thought sooner and sooner, and then you'll be able to easily let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. So that now in daily life, you're cutting off and letting go of any unwholesome thoughts that arise. So in meditation, we're training in one way. We're cutting off anything because we're trying to train the mind to easily let go. And we're developing that mindfulness and concentration. But then in daily life, with your mindfulness and awareness of mind and your concentration, wherever you see an unwholesome thought arise, that's what you're cutting off and letting go of. In daily life, if you have a wholesome thought, go forward, right? Maybe perhaps you would like to take your friend to the movies or take your mom to dinner or, do something else. Maybe you'd like to go, walk in the park and have a nice walk through the park. Go for it. You're not harming anyone. So you don't need to cut off everything in daily life. So it's just like a professional athlete. They're going to train in the gym in one way and they're going to perform their sport differently. So if I'm a pole vaulter, I might do cardiovascular training, I might do weight training, I might do agility training, but then when I go out onto the field, I'm going to do pole vaulting, which is very different than what I do in the gym. So when you're exercising your mind with meditation, you're training in one way, but then in daily life, you're doing something a bit different. But those qualities that you develop in your exercising of the mind with meditation, you're using those in daily life. So this is breathing mindfulness meditation, and you would need to develop this more and more, where you build up to 2 or 3 meditation sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. And this usually takes 6 months, a year, even 2 years I've seen people take to build up their meditation practice. But that's where you'll see the most benefit when you build up to that type of frequency and that length of time. You don't need to use an alarm or anything like that. You can just look at the time before you start meditation and look at the time afterwards, and then you can know how long you've been meditating. And you might decide to check in like once a week to see how long you've been meditating, and then gradually expand it until you're consistently meditating about 30 minutes or more per session. This is where you'll notice the most benefits. So what I'm going to do before I go into today's topic is just open up to any questions you guys might have on meditation, whether you're here at the temple or you're tuning in online. You can ask any and all questions that you like, because oftentimes people are developing their meditation practice, and I'd like to make some space to give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions that you have about your meditation practice. Here at the temple, if you guys have a question, if you could just use the microphones that are over there in that bowl, that'll help the people online to be able to hear your question. There's nothing that's going to harm you by using a microphone. You can use it. I assure you it's not going to cause you any harm. But if you use that, the people online will then be able to hear us and hear what you're asking. Do you guys have any questions here at the temple? No? Okay, let me check online here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions online either. So typically the way that I teach this class is I go each Sunday, chapter by chapter, in this first book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. It's volume 1 of this 13-book series. This book series is titled The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden, and you're learning through the original words of the Buddha. And you can access all these books at no cost. You can download them from our website, you can take them and go print them, or you can get printed copies here at the temple or on Amazon if you like printed or Kindle versions. And I go chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping you to develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment so that you'll understand what it takes to train the mind and develop the mind on the path to enlightenment and get to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, as well as those other qualities that I've mentioned at the beginning of class. But here in chapter 2, after I've been teaching for about 6 weeks, because there was kind of the introductory part of this program and then now the first 2 chapters, what I do is I have a discussion where I provide you guys the opportunity to talk and discuss, because if you've read the chapter about what it's titled is Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings. If you've read that chapter, you understand what I've taught. Or if you decide to read that chapter, you understand what I've taught. My goal isn't to try to convince people to learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha. That's not my role at all. What I'm doing is I'm here to guide those people who already have a sincere interest to learn and practice the teachings. So rather than me teach you why study Gotama Buddha's teachings as if I'm trying to convince an individual to learn and practice his teachings, that's not what I'm doing. I'm here to help those who have a sincere interest in learning and practicing to experience the enlightened mind, because the teachings of the Buddha, they're not based in belief. They're based on learning, reflecting, to independently verify them, and then you practice them. And this is where you train your mind and you see the improvement to the condition of your mind. So what I like to do here is just have students talk amongst yourselves through the class and just have like a group discussion. Those of you guys that are online, you can put your thoughts into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and talk, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and through the live stream, where you guys can share why is it that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. Or maybe you haven't chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha yet. You're just interested in understanding what they're all about, and maybe you have certain questions that you'd like to ask. That's a really important part of developing on the path, is asking questions and getting help, getting guidance from a teacher. So if this is maybe your first time being in a temple to actually learn, you might be asking questions like, what are the teachings of the Buddha? What where do I get started? What could I choose to do, and how should I get moving forward with the teachings, or why would I be even interested? You can ask me questions if you like about why one might choose to learn the teachings of the Buddha, and I'll share that with you. But instead of me teaching the way I normally do, I like to just have a discussion. So if there's somebody here if would like to start, if you guys would like to, there we go, Pat, go ahead, get a mic, step up to the mic and share with us why you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. If the light's on, it's on. Yeah, I think we've got you now.
Okay. I wanted to study because, all my life I've just been a total jerk about, the way I treat people, in the way that I want to be treated. So I specifically came to Thailand to learn more of the Buddhist ways. In all of my learning in years, I found that I've tended to drift towards Buddhism, because Buddhism is basically just is just asking you to be a better person, whereas religions in the world want you to follow a certain dogma, a certain doctrine, and this is completely unlike that. I've been working with you since June, I believe I started, and I've noticed a marked difference in the way that I think and the way that I treat people. That's why I'm here.
What are some of the things that you've noticed since you've been studying in June and practicing?
The biggest thing is I don't get angry as much as I used to. I used to have severe road rage, and just trying to make other people, if they're not using a turn signal, I get upset because they're not using a turn signal in front of me, or they're walking in front of me, without saying excuse me, et cetera, et cetera. Now I don't even think of that. I used to go from 0 to 10 on the anger scale. I could do that in a second, but now I go maybe to a 2, and then when I realize where I'm going with it, I cut it off immediately. Mm-hmm. So my drives to and from the temple now are much more pleasurable.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it was that, aside from the Buddha's teachings and learning the teachings of the Buddha, what was it specifically about his teachings that helped you to get to this point so far?
So far, I think it's just, as I alluded to earlier, that Buddhism is just, just asking you to be a better person. And that's where my thoughts go now. I don't go to the dark side of things the way I used to.
Okay.
I look at, as Monty Python said, the bright side of life.
Mm-hmm. Have you been working on building up a meditation practice?
I really struggle with that, but I've been doing 12 to 15 minutes twice a day.
Nice.
So I'm getting it, but I still have many, many thoughts that I'm unable to cut off.
Yeah, you're just getting started. This is a great start. If you've had that much improvement with the anger already, and you're not even at 30 minutes or more per session twice a day or 3 times a day, imagine what you're going to experience as you build up your practice even more.
I'm looking for good things. Yes.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Excellent. Well, wonderful to have you learning and growing. I know you've taken certain courses and retreats, and you've been coming now to the group learning program. So pleased to be able to help you to learn and develop your practice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I might not speak really well English. Before I came to Chiang Mai, I didn't think I will want to know more about Buddhism, this kind of thing. And with the practice, it's more like the atmosphere here in the town, in Chiang Mai, everywhere I go in the town, completely different than where I live, where I see in my real life. Mm-hmm. And when because before, when I lived in Paris, I practiced meditation, but it's really hard to continue, mm-hmm. because there's nothing to support me to learn why I do this, or I stuck in the statement that I don't know how to go further. And then I stop a little while. And when I come here, I start again to do the meditation in the temple. And it feels like really calm or amazing. Even just close the eyes, you feel the inner light in your mind. Then it's so warm, so joyful. Can say that, yeah.
You mentioned that your experience here in Chiang Mai is very different than where you live in Paris. What are some of the differences that you've seen?
It's a lot of things outside, people everywhere, cars, bikes, people talk, and us too, we can't stop a lot of talking, but here I can stop talking, I cannot talking, I can just not even use my eyes, use my feeling to see the things beside me. Yeah.
So is Paris like go, 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 go? Is that like, what you're describing?
Like you can't stop yourself to follow people because you see people walking so fast in the street, so you walk so fast in the street. And so even at home I try to practice, but sometimes have the dogs, have the cat. It's really hard. This is why I want to ask, with the teaching, maybe I don't know how to say it. Does it help me to continue, or put the things like my dog, because I can't live without anymore. So, but somehow to meditate with animals is still hard.
Yeah, so the teachings of the Buddha are going to explain to you what I refer to as the natural laws of existence. He's explaining to you the natural world, and he's explaining to you why your mind functions the way that it functions. And these natural laws exist, and we're unaware of them in the unenlightened state. So we go through life and we have struggles and difficulties because we don't understand the world that we live in. We don't understand these natural laws. It's the same thing like when we were a child, we experienced gravity, and we didn't understand this natural law of gravity. We kept falling down, we kept hitting our head and busting our elbow and breaking our toys and knocking over glasses and things like this. But slowly but surely we gained wisdom over a period of time. Maybe by the time we were 10 or 12 or 14, we started learning to tie our shoes, looking at the surface of the sidewalk. We started learning about how to be more calm and not be jumping around all the time. And we learned about this natural law through learning, through reflecting and seeing the truth for ourselves, and then practicing. We got better and better, and then we were able to now climb a ladder, get on airplanes, ride bicycles, ride motorbikes, because we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. So before that, we struggled and we had difficulties with this natural law because we didn't understand it. But then as we awoke, we had more ease, and now we can effortlessly practice because we fully awoke to the wisdom of this natural law. So the natural laws that the Buddha is teaching is the same thing, that in the unenlightened state, an individual will struggle, will have difficulties because there's a lack of wisdom of these natural laws and how the mind's functioning, how the world around you is functioning, and therefore you'll experience anger and frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, displeasure. There'll be certain people that you just don't like. You don't like this person, maybe the way they look or the way they talk or what they wear or some other thing. The mind is having what we call craving, desire, attachment. The mind has various pollutions in the mind. So the Buddha discovered what these pollutions are and how to eliminate them from the mind. And then when you learn his teachings, you reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice them, you can transform the mind, because as you're getting rid of this pollution out of the mind, you'll see things like what Pat is describing. And he's just been studying since June, and now he's not getting road rage anymore. He went from a 10 of anger to a 2 now every once in a while, and he's treating people more loving and more kind around him. So a human being has the ability to develop and train their mind and become a better and better human being. But with a lack of wisdom, We don't know how to do that. So what the Buddha is doing is he's providing you the wisdom of these natural laws so that you can understand the world that you live in, you can understand your mind, and now you can start relating in this world in a more peaceful and harmonious way. But as long as we lack wisdom, we will make unwise decisions, and those unwise decisions will produce unwholesome results. But when we cultivate wisdom through not believing his teachings, but learning, reflecting to independently verify and then practice, then we can actually see the truth. And with that wisdom, we will naturally make wiser decisions in our life. So that's what the Buddha is doing in his teachings. He's not trying to convince you to do anything. He's not asking you to do anything. He's not forcing you or controlling you. There's not rules or commandments to follow or anything like that. He's just explaining to you, how did he get to this enlightened mental state? How did he get so peaceful and so joyful? Because he did it on his own. That's what a Buddha does, is they get to enlightenment without the help of any teachers or any guides. That's one of the criteria that make a Buddha a Buddha. So when he discovered these teachings and he experienced this enlightened mental state, he then spent the rest of his life for 45 years helping people understand how to get to that enlightened mental state. So from the age of 35 to 80, he shared for 45 years what it takes. And what you'll see is that he's teaching these natural laws to help you understand this world that you live in. Namely, the main natural law that he's explaining is called the natural law of Gama, or some people might call it karma, right? Karma is the Sanskrit version. Gama is the Pali version. The original teachings of the Buddha are in Pali. So he's teaching you this cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. Some people think the natural law of Gama or karma, they think it's like punishments and rewards, or a mystical, magical thing, or some kind of black cloud that's following you around. But this isn't what it is at all. It's just the results of your decisions. That when you're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, for example, people tend to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to you. And that's a result of your choices. It's a cause and effect. And the same thing is, if we were impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, people would tend to be that way with us. And that's a result of our choices. And the same thing is that when we choose to continue to be angry, for example, if we can use this example, is if we choose to continue to be angry and we don't learn how to eliminate it, then we will continue to be angry, because that cause and condition that's causing the anger is still in the mind. So the Buddha is essentially taking human psychology and he's explaining it in common terms that every individual can understand. And he's explaining to you these natural laws that we're all affected by, whether we're aware of it or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, we were affected by it, whether we were aware of it or not. So the natural laws that he's explaining, we're affected by those, whether we're aware of them or not. But the more wisdom you have of these natural laws, then you'll naturally make wise decisions that lead to wholesome results. And with a lack of wisdom, we will make unwise decisions, thinking that what we're doing has all the best intentions. We'll think that, what we're doing is just so wonderful, and we'll do something, and then you'll experience this unwholesome result, and you'll be confused. Why did that even occur? Like, I had such pure intentions, but if you don't understand the natural law of Gama, of cause and effect, you'll think you're doing something that's really wonderful and the very best, and then when you put it out, what will come back to you is something unwholesome. But when you gain the wisdom of this natural law, you can always make decisions that are wise and produce just wholesome results in your life all the time. Yeah, so one thing I was going to ask you is, you were mentioning in France that you don't have access to resources like this. Like here in Thailand, we have these resources of there's more opportunities because the teachings are so steeped into the culture here and people's understanding. So now, very unique time that you live in is you can come to a place like Thailand, you can find out about all these resources, and then you can continue to learn from France. So if you would like to learn from France, this class at 9 a.m. is live streamed, and then I go home in the evenings and I live stream at 9 p.m. also, and I teach the class again. So in France, I think it's about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, something like that. Maybe 4, I'm not sure. You can look So Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday, there's classes. You can join through Zoom, through Facebook, through YouTube. You can get all the books, even the retreats and different things that I teach here. We live stream it. And then if you can't make it live, you can always watch the recording because they're all recorded afterwards, or they're available for you afterwards. Yeah. So welcome to Chiang Mai. Welcome to the peaceful heaven on earth, right? That's the way I call it. It's heaven on earth here because it's so peaceful. People understand the teachings of the Buddha and they practice them pretty closely, most places. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. I'm a bit confused in many things when I came here, because now I'm following a course on Thai massage, and so the teacher is following Buddha path, but he also telling me about energy and things we feel in the body, and this is with this energy that he can heal people. And me, I am wondering, because when I went to other monk talk, they was telling me that energy don't exist and all this kind of thing don't exist. But from what I see and what he's doing and the healing I see, I'm like, maybe there is something. And why the Buddhism don't talk about that? You know, because we in Buddhism we meditate a lot. Mm-hmm. So at some point you get to see that there is things inside your body. So why they never talk about that?
So the Buddhist teachings are all about training the mind, where Thai massage is about addressing the body. And the way that Thai massage works is they have those Zen, right? The Zen, the pathways of the loam that goes through the Zen. And they're applying pressure or acupressure with their thumbs, their hands, their elbows, their knees, their feet. And the way that a practitioner is taught in Thai massage is to move this loam or this energy, this life force through the body. And there's these connective pathways that they're thinking that this loam or this energy is passing through. But this is separate from what the Buddha taught. So the Buddha is teaching you about training the mind, where Thai massage is teaching you how to address the body and the physical structures of the body. One of the things that I observed, which Thai massage is wonderful, it will help heal the body in amazing ways, but as long as you're only addressing the body and you're not addressing the mind as well, the problem will just reoccur over and over and over again. So for example, if a client has chronic tightness in their shoulders and their neck, this is being caused by what's going on in the mind. The mind is having certain cravings, desires, attachments. The mind is chasing things in the world. And now because the mind is stressed or having anxiety or what have you, now the body is starting to tighten up. So the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. And if all we understand is how to address the body, then as an individual, you only know how to address the symptoms. You're not actually fixing the root cause, which is the actual mind itself. So in order to get complete healing, an individual would need to address their body and their mind. But there are certain practitioners that just focus on the body. And that's what they do, is they just address the body. And then you go to somebody else to address the mind. Rather than having one person do everything, each individual person is specializing in a certain area. So whenever you're coming to a temple or you're learning with somebody who's teaching you the teachings of the Buddha, we're helping you to address the mind and understand how to do that. And then a Thai massage practitioner, or sometimes you can even go to a doctor of Thai massage. They have those here in Thailand, where an individual is like a doctor of massage. If you go to that type of individual, they're going to address the body. And then you have a complete solution because you've addressed your mind and you're addressing the body. But if you were just to address the body, then this tightness in the neck is just going to keep reoccurring over and over and over again because you haven't gone back to the source and solved the source problem, which is the mind. But a Thai massage practitioner is looking at the problem through the body and opening up these pathways in the body called Zen. And that's how they're addressing the body, through that training and that discipline. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What school are you studying at?
Pichet?
Mm-hmm.
This school.
He passed away, right?
Yes, now his son is gonna take over.
Oh, okay. His son is teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he had this way of teaching that because we as a foreigner,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know much. We are a lot in our head
Mm-hmm.
and things like this. And his way of teaching was kind of showing us through Thai massage that yes, the solution is in our head. I mean, not in our head actually. Is to stop thinking
Mm-hmm.
and to listen in the body and listen everywhere, and eventually you will get rid of all your tension and problem.
Yeah. One of the things you'll see in the healing arts community and with Thai massage is there's this connection to Buddhism, right? Because people who are doing Thai massage here in Thailand, they're typically going to be from a Buddhist background. So they're, kind of themselves are kind of, in one way or another, practicing teachings of the Buddha at different levels or different degrees. But some people's understanding of the teachings of the Buddha isn't necessarily what the Buddha originally taught. If you see like rites and rituals, ceremonies, worship, things like this, the Buddha didn't teach these things. There's nothing mystical or magical or superstitious or auspicious about the teachings of the Buddha. It's purely about understanding these natural laws and gaining wisdom and training the mind. But sometimes you can be in environments where it looks very Buddhist and there's certain rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship going on. And it might make you think that that's what Buddhism is, because in that person's mind, that's what they think maybe Buddhism is. So wherever you see rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, you can understand that this isn't part of the teachings of the Buddha, even though those people may feel that it is. If you go back to the original teachings of the Buddha, he didn't teach any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. These are things that were added afterwards. So anything that you're doing with the mind would be to gain wisdom through learning, reflecting, and practicing, and then training the mind through meditation and other teachings that are going to train the mind. And then whatever you're doing with Thai massage, then that's addressing the body and understanding those things as two separate things, but also how they're actually working together to heal the individual. This is a very wise way, in my opinion, to think about this.
And what about the prayers? Every monk prays every day, all the time. This is worshipping, no?
So if somebody is actually praying to the Buddha, this is not what the Buddha taught. But because the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, what people are doing today in some cases can be very far away from what the Buddha actually taught. Each person is going to base their practice on what they understand. And sometimes if you're growing up in an environment where people are praying to the Buddha, feeding statues, giving food and water and other offerings to a statue or to a picture or something like this, then people grow up with that kind of thing and they think that that's actually what the Buddha taught. They don't understand that it's not what he actually taught. So if you see people that are doing those kinds of things, then yes, it's rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, and it's not going to lead to enlightenment. There's no way to pray your way to enlightenment or, give a statue food and get to enlightenment. This is all things that people have started doing since the death of the Buddha that leads the mind towards what the Buddha refers to as wrong view. What right view is understanding what's causing your discontent feelings. If you can understand the Four Noble Truths, which is a very beginning teaching that the Buddha teaches, and I'm going to be sharing it in 2 weeks from now, because I already shared it about 4 weeks ago, and we're going to revisit it about 2 weeks from now, where you learn the problem in the unenlightened mind, you learn the cause, the elimination, and the path forward, and you understand that the problem is within one's own mind, these pollutions that are in the mind, and there's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship that's going to fix that. It's through understanding what those pollutions are and then uprooting them and transforming the mind away from those pollutions that'll actually lead to enlightenment. But because the Buddha lived 2,500 years ago and not everybody has access to his teachings, even though they might consider themselves Buddhist, oftentimes people are practicing rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship thinking that this is what the Buddha taught because that might be what they grew up with, but they've never taken the time to go back and look at the original teachings to be able to see that he didn't actually teach those things. So you can see monks that are very far away from the teachings of the Buddha. Just because someone shaves their hair and wears an orange robe doesn't mean that they're studying the teachings of the Buddha the way that he taught them. So the Buddha talked about this during his lifetime. He described how at this time in history, people would be very far away from his teachings, and there'd be people arguing and fighting over what he actually taught and what he didn't teach. So right now, the vast majority of the world that considers themselves Buddhist, they're not actually studying with the original words of the Buddha. And that's why what I share, I base it on the original words of the Buddha. And then I encourage people not to believe those teachings, because if you just believe them, you're not going to get to wisdom. In order to move the mind to enlightenment, you need to get to wisdom. So that's why there's learning, reflecting to independently verify, and then practicing. And this is where you can see the transformation in the mind, where if you just did rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or if you had belief or faith and you just did things based on blind faith, it's not going to produce the qualities of the enlightened mind.
Okay, yeah, because all my life I was, I need to see to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, all of these magic things are not true.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm changing my mind. I know it's not the teaching of the Buddha, but when I see some student of Piche that came and did treatment on other people, they don't need to touch the body. They just know where all the blockage of the people are. And they just do, okay, there is a guy who is not good at Thai massage at all. He telling us that he come just to pray and just for the temple and to receive the energy of the temple. And when he gives a massage to somebody, the technique is terrible because he doesn't know, but he makes the person cry from emotion that the person have stored in their body. He knows how to make them go away, and he knows where they are. And it's some location in your body where you don't feel pain. So your own self, you cannot see, but he can see. And after, you burst into tears. And I saw it, so I know, there is something more, even if it's not part of the teaching of the Buddha.
Mm-hmm. I would suggest to you to be cautious about believing these kinds of things, because an environment like this where there's rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship going on, and people are believing certain things and not understanding, there can be a certain amount of conformity that, like, I'll give you an example. Like, there's some environments that people think if you get a tattoo, this tattoo is going to protect your body. And if somebody tries to stab you with a knife, it can't penetrate the skin and it can't penetrate the body. And they have these ceremonies that they do, even here in Thailand, where they do these tattoos and they'll take this knife and they'll, look like they're trying to stab the person and the knife doesn't go through the body. And this is all performance. They have people who have these big bowls of oil, and they will have a fire under the oil, and this person will sit in the oil of what appears to be a bubbling oil, and they're not affected by the bubbling, boiling oil. And there's these different types of things where the mind can go into what we call delusion or confusion or misunderstanding. And there's definitely the ability to put your hands on somebody and fix the physical body. And this is part of what an individual can do as a Thai massage practitioner or a doctor of Thai massage. But any kind of healing on an emotional level or within the mind has to be done through cultivating wisdom. There's no way that I can touch you or anybody else can touch you and heal your mind. It's just not possible, because your mind is has certain pollutions. As an unenlightened being, there's going to be certain pollutions in there, and the only way to eliminate them is for you to choose to do that training. But there's certainly times where an individual could be touched, and there can be tears, or there could be any other kind of emotions that bubble up in the mind. But this isn't from the body itself. There isn't a way for the body to store emotion, even though this is something that a lot of people believe. Any kind of emotions that one is experiencing is in the actual mind itself. It's not in the body. But people sometimes believe that emotion is in the body, but there's no capability of the body to store any kind of emotion. It's all stored in the mind itself. And these are two separate things. And as you dive into it, you can see the separation between the body and the mind, but yet they reside together when there's an existence or when there's a life. I know this is opposite of what you perhaps are being exposed to in the Thai massage world. There's a book, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called Encyclopedia of Thai Massage. You haven't heard this book? You might decide to get that book. It's available online. I wrote this book with a co-author. I used to have 2 Thai massage centers and a Thai massage school. That's how I know Pachet and a lot of the other Thai massage that's going on. There's a lot of things that I believed when I was doing Thai massage, and a lot of things I was taught to believe, or people believed in the Thai massage community. You want to believe that you can put your hands on somebody and heal them. There's a certain amount of physical well-being that you can bring about through touching somebody, but what you'll find, perhaps if you look deeper and deeper, is anything that's going on in the body, it's coming from the mind. And the only way for somebody to truly get to complete healing is through addressing the mind. If we only address the body, they're not going to get to a complete solution. Yeah.
And you're saying that the body don't store emotions.
That's correct. Okay. The body is cells, is tissue, is organs, is bones, fluid. There's no way for the body to store an emotion. The mind is what has the emotions. So you can press on somebody and somebody might have a thought and then they might cry, right? In the example that you're giving, right? If somebody gets pressed on and then it arises a certain thought in their mind and now they might cry, but that's coming from the mind. It's not coming from the body itself.
Okay, because this guy, he knows. Okay, so for example, he will tell you that your body stores your emotion in this part of your body. Mm-hmm. And he will touch this part of the body and you will cry.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Yeah.
And I saw him doing that for like 5 people.
Yeah, I understand. I was in this world for a long time. My wife is still doing this. She has been doing massage since she's 9 years old. She's 48 years old. I see people when she massages them, they sometimes cry. Yeah, this is possible. But any of that is coming from the mind itself. So, for example, here's how you can see the truth for yourself. If there's emotion stored in the body, then that means that at the time of death, when the body and the mind separate and we just have a body laying there, then that means if you press on the body, then there would be emotion. But you can see that it's not possible. That if there's just a body sitting there and you press on the body, there's no emotion. So you can see that there needs to be a mind in order for emotions or feelings to be produced.
Yeah, I think it's all connected. They work together. But if the body is dead and there is no conscience inside the body, yeah, it will not work.
Because there's no mind.
Yes.
Now you see the truth.
No, but I think they are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions stop here as we do something in the body.
Mm-hmm.
When you wake up with this mind, this force,
Mm-hmm.
come back.
So if you look at it separately as what the mind is doing and what the body is doing, you can see at death, when there is no mind, there is no emotion. And that's how you know that there is no emotion in the body. you'll need to look at it. You'll need to see the truth for yourself. The mind wants to believe that I can press on somebody and I'm doing something emotion-wise, but there's nothing that you're doing emotion-wise. You're pressing on physical structures of the body. And there may be an emotional response because of the connection of the body and the mind, but the body itself doesn't store any emotion. You'll have to look at it. This is what I'm sharing with you as what I know to be the truth. I'm not suggesting you should believe that, but don't believe this other thing either. Look at it for yourself and objectively see that when there is no mind, there is no emotion. So if emotion is stored in the body, then when we see the body by itself, it would have emotion, but it doesn't have emotion by itself.
Okay, and what about intuition? Do you believe in Buddhism? Do we believe in that?
I don't believe in anything. In the teachings of the Buddha, you'll never see where he teaches you to believe anything. He never says, believe me, believe me, believe me. He never says this. He always says, investigate the teachings, examine the teachings. What intuition is what I would refer to as it's wisdom and wise decision-making. You might have a certain thought that, you know what, it would be unwise for me to walk out into the middle of the street. I should look both ways. Someone might call this intuition, but it's just wise decision-making based on wisdom. The unenlightened mind really wants to believe in something auspicious or something superstitious or some kind of destiny or some kind of fate. It wants to believe in these kinds of things, but what you need to do is strip away belief and be able to see the truth for yourself, that what we have in the world is we have cause and effect, or action and result, right? We have the results of our decisions, that if we allow the mind to believe that there's these auspicious or superstitious things that are happening in the world, then we fail to be able to see true reality, that it is this natural law of cause and effect or action and result. So the way that I think about intuition, or someone might call it like a gut instinct, this is just the mind having certain wisdom, and now you're making wise decisions based on that wisdom. There's no emotion stored in the gut. There's no bodily wisdom. There's no wisdom in the body itself. It's all just physical structures. The mind is the boss, and the body is the employee. The body is just following whatever's going on in the mind. I'll give you an example. Say somebody's like an avid skier, like a winter skier, like a downhill skier, and they've been skiing their whole life, maybe from the age of 8 or 10 or 12, and they ski and ski and ski and ski, and every chance they get, they're out on the slopes skiing excessively. Well, now maybe by the age of 30 or 40 or 50, their knees are starting to deteriorate and they're starting to have difficulties in their knees. Well, the problem that they're having in their knees is actually coming from their mind, because they have such craving to go skiing and they're skiing obsessively. Then their knees are starting to blow out. Their knees are starting to have difficulties because their knees have been repetitively doing these motions for so many years. And we can massage the knees. We can try to do certain medical treatments to help them with their knees. But let's just say you even repair their knees. Well, if they're right back out on the slopes because they have craving in their mind and they're just go, and they're wanting to excessively ski, they're going to have more problems. They're going to have problems in their ankles. They're going to have problems in their hips. They're going to have problems all these other places because their mind still has the longing, yearning, and craving to go ski. So this is where you can see that the real problem isn't the knees themselves. The real problem is the craving in the mind, because even if you replace the knees, if the craving still exists in the mind, then they're going to continue to do that activity excessively, and it's going to continue to break down and wear down the body. So this is where you can see that the body is the boss, the mind is the boss, and the body is the employee. The body's just following along with whatever's going on in the mind. So in order to get true healing, an individual needs to heal their mind. That just fixing the body through a massage, it's going to give you some temporary relief, But until you get to the mind, until an individual chooses to train their mind, they're not going to see full relief and full solution of their problems. And rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship won't do that for you. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom in the mind. There's no amount of sprinkling water on you, praying to a statue, feeding a statue, doing chanting or prayers. There's no amount of that is going to fix an individual's mind. They have to learn and train their mind and uproot the pollutions out of the mind. So that's what's ultimately going to fix the mind, which is ultimately going to help the body as well. But then there's things like Thai massage and others that you can go in and address the physical structures and give the physical structure some relief because of certain emotions or certain things that are going on in the mind. It's now put a burden on the body, and you can relieve the burden of the body through certain techniques like this, and then address the mind as well, and that'll give a complete solution. When I was doing Thai massage, I would see clients and I would fix whatever's going on in their body, but they would come right back and they would keep having the same problem over and over and over because they hadn't addressed the mind. And I didn't understand the mind enough at that point to guide them and how to fix it. So that's why I moved out of Thai massage and into sharing the teachings of the Buddha, because I knew that that's the real source of the problems, which is the mind itself. Because I was interested in helping people and helping people heal. And Thai massage is wonderful to heal the body. But then I realized that in order to really, truly help people, I needed to be able to help them with their mind. And that was what would give them a complete solution. You guys have other things you would like to discuss on this topic? Not necessarily about Thai massage and healing, but about why you chose to study the teachings of the Buddha? Let me take a look. So Kushi is in Zoom. We're having a discussion around why you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. If you would like to share, just raise your hand electronically or put that into the comment section and I'll read it here. I don't see anyone in Facebook that's sharing. We have something here in YouTube. Let's see what we've got in YouTube. So we've got some questions here in YouTube about the teachings of the Buddha. Would you like me to address these, or would you like to go first? Okay. So the question here in YouTube is how to deal with unknown resistance to even sit down in calm. So I'm thinking that what you're asking here is your own mind, right? Is how to deal with this resistance that the mind isn't interested in sitting down. So this is the mind perhaps being overactive. And what you would like to do here is learn about walking meditation. This is really good if the mind is resistant to sitting down and being calm and being still in one place. You can learn walking meditation. And if you go to our YouTube channel, which you're on YouTube now on our, watching our live video, is you can search for walking meditation, and you'll see a short little video that I share about how to do walking meditation, because this is really good if a mind is resistant to being calm, or if it's overactive or uptight. You can use walking meditation because then there's some movement and the mind will tend to appreciate this more. And you might need to do this either as a standalone or in combination, where you can do walking and then switch to sitting. Or lying or standing or some other position. So the mind is going to be somewhat overactive for some people when you first get started on your training because of the pollution that's in the mind. And what you would like to do is be able to use and invoke these different meditation positions based on what the mind needs at any given time. In some situations, you might do seated, and sometimes you might do lying, sometimes you might do standing, and other times you're going to need walking meditation when the mind is overactive, and that can really help you to then be able to let go of some of the overactivity in the mind, and then be able to either do that as a standalone or switch to one of these other positions. And yes, you're welcome, and I see you saying there that you had a really great meditation, so that's wonderful. Okay, so over to you, Samantha.
I just wanted to share that I came to Thailand for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted to kind of quiet my mind from a former life I had where I was very stressed, very much on the go. And like this young lady in the States, I found that I didn't have any support. Having found Buddhism when I came here about 12 years ago and just feeling completely different as soon as I got off the plane, I started learning about it in the States, and it's difficult, I think, in a lot of places to be able to do that. There aren't good teachers or not support. Wasn't something that I necessarily shared with people I worked with because I knew that they wouldn't understand it. You know, the country I came from was very Christian-based, and so anything that's not is very different. But in coming here, just for 2 months, the teachings are so basic, which is what I've always looked for. So I grew up Catholic, and it's very ritual-based. It's very much, as many religions are, based on belief. And even as a child, I didn't believe any of it. And it just never quite fit right. And I'm very scientific-minded. And so the idea of Buddhism, where you test things, you make sure you understand them and that you take them in, that you're not just blindly believing something, makes a big difference.
I agree. Yeah, there's the approach in Buddhist teachings of you're your own independent journey to enlightenment, and you need to be able to see the truth and investigate that and examine the teachings of the Buddha. And that's what he's always guiding you to do, because then you can see the truth. And some of these things that we talk about, like what we were just talking about with Thai massage, one conversation isn't enough for sometimes to be able to see that truth. And you need to kind of step back and really strip it down and think about it. And as long as the mind holds on to what we've done in the past, then you won't experience something new. So this is great that you're choosing to explore something new and investigate. And one of the things that I will sometimes share with students is someone who's on the path to enlightenment, they're not a follower. You're not interested in just following a teacher or a book or even the Buddha. You're not just following. You're an independent practitioner on this independent journey, but you're going to need guidance. You're going to need support, and that's what a teacher like me is doing, is here to provide you support. And then as we have conversations and we talk, you're not going to necessarily see what the teacher's seeing immediately. You might need to step back and think about some of these things. And you mentioned about how the teachings of the Buddha are simple, and I agree. They're very straightforward and very simple. The challenge is that over the course of many generations, the teachings have been made complicated, and sometimes people really complicate things, and sometimes this can be one's own ego trying to make it more difficult, and sometimes we feel like the more difficult it is, if we figure it out, that we somehow have accomplished something more. But this is just one's own ego, perhaps, in there, kind of bolstering the mind. But when you look at what the Buddha taught and the way that he spoke very simple, very straightforward, very clear, very concise, very precise. Because remember, he's taking human psychology and these natural laws that could potentially be very complex, but he's bringing it down to a very common understanding that just a common individual can understand. And that's one of the real powers of a Buddha, is that they figured out how to get to enlightenment, and then they can discuss it in such simple terms and such basic terms that a common individual can understand it and gain benefit in it. So that's great that you are noticing that, because those are things that I observed as well. And so it's only been about 2 months since you've been coming, right?
Yeah, I had tried doing some meditation teachings and courses and whatnot in the States, and because of my life at the time, I wasn't able to be consistent about it, which is very important. You have to stay consistent. But also it seemed like the teachings in the West were very, as I'm finding out here, I'll say the word polluted, and changed, in that there are so many different, we'll say, courses of Buddhism that you could follow, that I was very confused about, well, why are there so many different ones? And so being here with you and starting kind of at the root and at the base of them and saying, okay, now I see why people went this way with it and that way with it. I actually want the basic stuff. And then I can decide, to stay with that, or if a certain practice is better for me. But I'm, just because of myself, I'm a very basic person, as I said, kind of very scientific minded. I just want things very concise, not flowery. Some of the traditions that certain religions have, or even Buddhism or whatnot, didn't really sit right with me either. I thought, well, why do you have to do that? It doesn't make any sense. And now it makes sense because it was never taught in the first place. It's something that people have come up with. So I like that it's broken down here to be very simple. And you don't have to learn a lot, just a few basic things. Take in, and then you practice them, and it's not trying to please anybody else or the goal of being the best person or whatnot. It's just being your best self.
Have you been developing a meditation practice?
I have, and like Pat, driving's a cinch now. It's amazing. It's like instantly I'm like, or to, let's say, have maybe a problem with customer service or something like that, immediately I'm like, it's not that person's fault. I don't want to say sabai all the time, but compared to before, it's a completely different life. Like, why didn't I know this 10 or 20 years ago? My life would have been completely different. But yeah, and just being around Thai people who are generally quiet and generous and whatnot makes a big difference. It's just a different atmosphere than the West. So.
Yeah, for those of you guys online, sabai means relaxed or comfortable. It's a term that we use here in Thailand, that, rather than being very stressed and nose to the grindstone and all of these things that we might have learned in our home countries, here in Thailand they have a term or a phrase that they use. Sabai means like so comfortable, so relaxed, just take it easy. And it's a really nice way to think. I think when I visited Jamaica, it's like, no worries, man, right? It's kind of like the same thing with sabai, like no worries, just relax. Don't take it so seriously. Yeah. All right.
My meditation practice is coming along pretty well. Like Pat, I only last for about 15 or 20 minutes, but I've started, this might seem a little weird, I've started doing it in the sauna every morning at my condo. And it's perfect for me because I'm very noise sensitive. And I go in there and it's like being completely isolated. I hear nothing. I'm not distracted at all. And I find that practice I can do for half an hour with very little traveling of my thoughts. Whereas just sitting in my condo, I can hear the birds and the planes and people around me. I'm still not very good at shutting noises out. But I find that if I put myself into a contained situation when there isn't noise, my meditation seems to be much deeper and goes much longer.
Okay. Yeah, this is normal when you're first getting started, that, you need to develop the mind, and there's certain cravings that are in the mind. Maybe the mind's craving silence, perhaps. So the fact that you're meditating in different environments is actually really good, because you're teaching the mind about impermanence and that you're not going to permanently be able to be in quiet. So if you only ever meditated in the sauna and that was it, I would encourage you to meditate in other places too, so that you do get a bit of airplane noise and birds chirping and dogs barking, because the mind needs to be able to get comfortable with impermanence, that it's not going to always be able to permanently be in quietness. So that's good that you're moving the mind around in those different environments like that. Yeah, that's very good. And you're already seeing progress. Only, I think it's been less than 2 months, because you started at the end of the last group learning program, right?
This one. So
you started at the beginning of this one.
6 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, about 6 weeks. Yeah, that's good. That two less road ragers. And I'm a third, right? I was probably used to do that kind of stuff a long time ago too. All right, excellent. Okay, let me see if we have anything online again. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else online. So what I'll do then is just thank all of you guys here at the temple and online for coming and deciding that today's the day you'd like to learn the teachings of the Buddha. And at the same time, invite you guys to our future classes, courses, and retreats. We have classes here on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday starting at 9 a.m. And then there's certain periods of time where we have courses, retreats, and things like this. We have a bulletin board here at the temple that has the kind of recent future to be able to see what those options are. And then we have on our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, there's a calendar there that will help you to be able to see what options we have for learning both here at the temple and online, because now we're able to live stream our classes here from the temple and then the ones that I teach at home as well. So thank you all for coming. Have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.